Hey, this is Sweet Game. I am your host, Phil. We take a look at video game marketing. Today, we're going to be looking at the basics of marketing, general video game, but this I think would apply for everything. But these are the things that I've picked up on that I've heard from around a little background about me. I don't necessarily come from a video game marketing background. I love video games. I work in marketing. But I've not worked directly in video game marketing. I've worked more in higher ed marketing, but I know the ins and outs of media literacy. I like to think as well as marketing. So this is me just taking a look at the landscape and saying what I would do if I was a solo publisher or a small team. And I'm just trying to encourage, creators to really push their game out there because it's needed. I think every story is worth telling. I think games are both commodities and works of art. And with works of art, as well as commodities, you need to tell people your story in order to get them to buy into it and spend time with it or even give you money for it. And part of that is marketing, and not everyone likes to market. It's not for everybody. I myself have a hard time marketing even my own work. I do much better when it's for somebody else. Hence why I'm trying to help other people get their stuff going. But if you're a solo dev or a small team, hopefully this will get you, the building blocks for at least starting out with your marketing. So I wrote down like 8 things, and I'm just going to talk about them. We're going to start with number 1, and this is no real particular order of like priority. This is just how I wrote it out. And I may have take a second to read it because I have horrific handwriting, so I apologize. Sorry, I blew into that microphone. Sorry, but if I stutter or have trouble reading my words. But number 1, your game is cool. The thing that you are making is cool. The fact that you are making it is cool. Not a lot of people make stuff. It seems like a lot of people make stuff, especially now. Now that the entry to creation is so low, like you can make stuff on your phone. The basic laptop that you have will let you get into game dev pretty easily, I think, depending on the language that you use or the system that you're using. It used to not be that way. It used to be you're burning CDs. Before that, even just trying to get a cassette out or a vinyl out. If you were making music, I'm just going with the music on this because that's something I've done when I was in a band in college and high school. It was more difficult, but now you record it and you put it out on Bandcamp or Spotify or any other streaming service, even not just YouTube, whatever. So it seems like everybody is making something, which possibly, and which I encourage and I love, and everyone should be making something. I think humans are at their best creative and artistic beings who just make stuff, but we're also people who like to trade. Humans just trade stuff, money for goods or art. So I want you to get into your head that your stuff is worth it. That you've got to think that it's worth sharing. If it's worth building and you're building it, it's worth telling people about it, no matter what other people think about it. It's every story is worth telling, and every project is worth sharing. And I think it's going to hold you accountable when you're sharing it more. And also you're going to get people on your side. You're going to get some haters, and they're just going to be haters, period, for everything. It's just how it works. I would just block them. Do not engage. Block them and move on. They're not worth it. Sometimes people will have legit criticism and just not put it in the right wording and sound like a jerk. Other times they're just going to be a jerk. Just to be a jerk, because that's how people are built sometimes. But your game is cool. That's number 1. Your game is worth telling people about it. Number 2, repeat often. I think there's a big fear, and I can see it being legitimate, of just saying the same thing over and over again. And you don't want to say the exact same thing over and over again, but you want to say the same thing often and not be afraid to say it often, because not everybody's going to see your message or see your story or see your game, however you want to put it, all the time. Maybe your followers, but even then they're probably not going to see everything you post, depending on the platform. But people not following you, they're definitely not going to see it. And then if they see it, they're going to see it one time, maybe. If you're lucky, a few more times after that, if they engage in it and read it, stay for a while, linger on it. So it's worth getting over the idea of repeating yourself. Yes, there is a point of doing it too much. You don't want to be, posting every hour on the hour. And you also don't want to be posting the exact same thing all the time. You don't want to be like, hey, I have a cool game. It's coming out August blank, whatever. Wishlist it. And just spamming that. No, you want to be, again, you're telling your story. You want to be giving them bits and pieces of the dev work you're doing, the concepts, what's behind it, the character creations, all of this. So think of it as like, my game is cool. Here's my game. You do variations of that within your game. So like, hey, my game is cool. Here is some sprites I made last week. I'm sharing the main character and the villain. They might change, but here's the rough draft of them. Hey, I've got this game that I'm making. You're implying that's cool because you're posting about it. Hey, I've got this game that I'm making. Here's some game mechanics I'm working on. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, there's the game. Hey, I'm working in Godot. I'm working in Unreal, whatever. And I'm learning to make this game, or I'm making this game. Here's the rough idea I have for it. It's a sci-fi adventure game, platformer, whatever. So you just want to be telling it all the time. And I think depending on the platform, you can get away with talking about it a couple times, 2 or 3 times, like TikTok, probably 2 or 3 times, Blue Sky, maybe Twitter, maybe. So like these shorter form ones where the algorithm is not going to be like showing people every post you have. Probably not like on YouTube, but maybe YouTube Shorts. I don't know. So you want to not be afraid of repeating yourself. It's a worthwhile endeavor to get in the practice of talking about your game. That's not to say if you're on these platforms, you should only talk about your game. Talk about other stuff, especially if you're like a solo dev and that's just like your main account. But you should talk about other stuff, and you should comment on people's stuff too, and be like, "Hey, this is cool. I like this XYZ." If you have something negative to say about somebody's work, for whatever reason, just say it to yourself. Write it in a letter, mail it to yourself, whatever. You don't need to tell them. It's just not worth it. There's no point in it. If there's like legitimate questions of like, hey, how do I do XYZ? And you have the answer. Yes, share that. That's great. You don't need to be going on there and spreading negativity, because you're just going to look bad and people are just not going to like it, and they're not going to associate your new game with good vibes because they're associating with you being a jerk. So repeat, but don't be a hater yourself. And your game is cool, and there's going to be haters, but block them. It's worth time and money. Your game is cool and worth time and money. Yes, please respect your game, respect your project enough to be okay with charging it, or if it's free to play, be okay with knowing that it's worth people downloading and spending time with it and getting into it. If it's a casual game, people still will spend time on it, or they'll spend money on it. If it's like a deep RPG, they're going to spend a lot of time on it and or money on it. And it's worth it. It's worth it because you've put time into it. There's going to be variations on like what the price is and what somebody's going to be willing to pay for it. But there's, a lot of silly games that I've bought in the past that were like $5, $10, sometimes $15, and it was worth it to me. And it was a very short game, not a AAA game, but it was an indie game, and I liked what I saw and I wanted to see what it was about, and so I bought it. There's a lot of people out there like that. There's a lot of people willing to give you their hard-earned money to be entertained for a few hours, and they're going to respect that you put your time into it and put effort into it. you have to deliver on your promise of like a good, fun game, whatever that is, be it like a difficult horror survival game or like an easier platformer game or something like that. Not that a platformer game is easier than a horror survival game, but it's an easy platform game or an easy survival game, whatever. The time you put into it, it's worth the money. Some people may not be willing to spend the money on it, and that's okay. They're not haters. They're just have a different taste. They don't have the money right now, whatever. You're not trying to capture everybody. Not everyone's going to be a customer. Not everyone's going to be a player, and that's okay. I've said this already. Haters are going to hate. That's number 4. Yeah, haters are going to dislike your stuff. They're not going to like that you're talking about it because they're jealous. They're not going to like that you're talking about it because it ruins their timeline on their platform or whatever. They're going to be mad that you're charging for it because they can download a game for free that's similar to it, which who cares? Go play Marvel Rivals. It's free to play. Whatever. That's not the game you're building. You're building something unique, your perspective, your point of view, your story to tell, and it's worth the time. And so these haters, just block and move on. I would not engage with them in any way. I would not try to talk them down or just like punch back, slam on them, whatever. It's not worth your time. You got better things to do, which is promote your game and build your game. So don't bother with them. And don't be a hater yourself. I said this a little bit earlier about when repeating your message. Don't go around, hating on other people's work. If it's similar to what you're doing, no man is an island. Nothing lives in a vacuum. We've all kind of derived from something else. Probably the first work of art of like some caveman carving his rock into the side of the wall was probably the only person who invented anything. And even then, he probably learned it from like his dogs scraping the ground or something. I don't know. So yeah, haters going to hate. Ignore them and don't be one. Build community. Yeah, that's easier said than done. Obviously, this could be anything from like a really heavy community of people in the Discords, depending on what kind of game you have or story you're telling. Or it could be like a community of just like followers that you have on Blue Sky or Twitter or whatever who just want to like follow your story and like are your cheerleaders and be like, oh, this looks cool. I like the art. I'm interested in this. I want to see this when it comes out. You can have casual followers. I would consider myself a casual Dwarf Fortress fan. I've tried playing it before it was published and had its assets updated. I can't remember the name of the publisher, something Fox. Before that, I saw some documentaries on YouTube about Dwarf Fortress, and I was like, this is a cool game. This is a great story. I'm going to go try playing it. I tried playing it, and the ASIC graphics killed me. I could not do it. I could not do it. I tried like 3 or 4 times, but I was I loved what they were doing so much that I became a patron on Patreon for them. I think I paid like whatever their lowest tier was, maybe $5, maybe $1. I think I didn't pay $1. I think I paid at least $2. Might have been more, no more than $5. Just giving them like every month for a year until they, officially published their work, just to support them, because they were doing like really cool stuff and like other games derived from their work. Like they influenced a lot of other gamers that are like big in the industry. They deserve to get that credit and to make a living and pay their bills and build this game. And so even though I wasn't like a huge, like a player, and I wasn't like in the forums and, I wasn't like wearing their shirts or anything, I still gave them some money and would be like, dope, keep making this. Then I'd go try to play it and I'd be like, this is not for me. This is not my type of game, but I love what they're doing. I've done that a couple times with a few other creators. I've kind of cut down on what I've been doing just because of the economy we live in. But I think there's more people out there like me who will just support things that are cool out there. Whether they're just going to go around and like something, they're going to repost it, tell somebody about it, give some money. That's still part of the community. So be cool, be friendly, be nice, share your story, tell your story. And there's going to be people who's going to be like, I love what you're doing. How can I help? So yeah, build your community. Earlier, the better. It's number 6. Yeah, this goes into, quickly after you start building the game, I would start talking about it. You don't have to be like huge promotion, but be like, I'm making this game, this is what I want to do. And then give like daily updates or weekly updates. And the more you do, the more frequent the updates I think should come. So like early on, you're probably, it's probably going to be like once a week, maybe a couple times a week. Hopefully a couple times a week. But as you get more done, there's going to be more to share. There's going to be more assets to talk about. There's going to be more drafts to go over. There's going to be more like bugs to fix. Talk about the bugs you've come up against. Talk about your inspiration. How'd you get this idea? Did you pivot? You don't have to talk about it all at once, but you can talk about like this idea, and then you can talk about it again like a month or 2 later or 3 months later. And like this, I got this idea from this. You can tell the story again with large gaps in between. And you can talk about how you pivoted the idea because you were doing a shoot 'em up and then you decided to do a platform. I keep going to platforms because they're just such, I don't know. They're like the vanilla ice cream of video games. I think vanilla ice cream is really great when it's really done really well, but everyone's done platformers. But anyways, sorry. Yeah, you just start talking about it sooner than later. Because by the time you get to like, this is going to be wish listed next week, you shooting out a couple of tweets about it or posts about it somewhere else, it's not going to have the reach that it needs to have. You need to be like going early, especially if you're like a smaller team and this is like your first game or like one of your first games. You should be talking about it much sooner than later. I know it's a pain in the butt. Again, marketing is a pain in the butt because you just want to be building, you just want to be making stuff, but you've got to be telling people this story. So start sooner than later. I don't think you need to start before you write your first line of code or draw your first character. I think you should probably get like a month or 2 into making the game and then start talking about it. But yeah, definitely talk about it sooner than later. I've said it a couple times, share your story. That's what it's all about. You want to share your story. What does it mean to share your story? Share how you got to your idea for gaming, for your video game. Share the progress and process of your video game. Share your background in video games, in programming. Share the characters and who they are. Share the environment and what it is. Share the plot of the video game and what to expect. You don't have to give away everything, but if you're Mario, be like, yeah, you're this plumber and you get sent into this magic kingdom. It's crazy. You have to fight a dragon maybe. But sharing your story. And there's a lot of stories within you just making something. And you think people are not going to be interested in it or resonate with it, but you'll be very surprised to see people will resonate, especially other game developers. One of the first communities I got into when I was on Twitter, when I first started years and years ago, and I was starting just programming. I was learning programming for my other work, and I'm a horrible programmer. I hate programming. It's not in my blood, but it's good to know in what I do because I do a lot of tech stuff on the marketing side. But what I got into was the game dev side of stuff, and everyone was talking about building these things, and I love seeing people make stuff. And they were like supporting each other, and they were talking about the games they were making and what they wanted to do and the games they were playing and what inspired them, and they were really telling the stories of who they were and what they were doing. And so by the time they were like starting to promote their game and what they were building, I was like all in. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna follow up and see what you're doing. I'm gonna wish list it. Maybe I'll purchase it or not, because there's a lot of games out there. I think a lot of people have a long Steam wish list that not necessarily ever ends, and there's the games that have been sitting on there for years. But yeah, they just kind of started telling their stories. So you'll find find support in other makers, other creators, other devs. Then you'll find people like myself who's a fan and just going to be like, yeah, I'm here to like see this and boost it and do what I can for it. Other people are going to grab onto it because they like what they see and what you're doing and what you're talking about. And it could be any part of it. It could be your aesthetics for your game. It could be the story of your game. It could be the genre of your game. It could be your story about what you're doing. It could be the engine that you're using, Godot versus Unreal versus, I don't know, Bitsy or Bitly. I can't remember the name of the smaller one. Not Bitly. I think it's Bitsy. Or Pico 8. I was really in the Pico 8 for a while. So you're going to, by telling your story, you're going to find people who are going to support you, and it makes it much easier to move forward, keep building, and then also promote your work by telling your story. So yeah, your game is cool and your story is probably just as cool, if not cooler. So just talk about it. Talk about yourself and what you're doing. 1 or 2 platforms. This is more logistics and bandwidth. If you're a small team, you're one person, you probably are focused on one platform all the time. Anyways, you're probably sitting around with your personal Blue Sky or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I don't say Facebook because I don't know who besides my mom and a couple aunts who's on Facebook anymore. But yeah, you're probably already on there. So, make the decision to just use that to promote your stuff. Maybe if you're a small team, you want to make a professional publishing gamer, whatever, it might be worth it. But at the end of the day, just focus on one platform or at the most 2. I wouldn't go above 2 platforms. And I say 2, 1 I would definitely do, 2 as a maybe, just because I'm assuming somebody already has their Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever for their micro posts, whatever you call them. I think it's called micro blogging officially. But you have your Twitter or your Blue Sky, your platform for that. You've probably been on there for a while. You probably have some followers and some friends. I would say stick with that. But if you really want to like go up a little bit and you've got the time to do it, I wouldn't do it if you don't have a plan or a time to do it. But I would go over to YouTube and do some web dev stuff, like dev vlogs, and talk about the process, get on screen and talk about it, talk about what you're doing. Or get on TikTok. I know TikTok's unstable. Will it come or will it go? Do TikTok or do Instagram Reels. Show some videos, talk about your stuff for a short time. Recently I saw this guy talk about this game called Wizard Shrimp on TikTok, and it kind of blew up. It went a little bit viral. It wasn't huge, but I bought the game. It's an okay game. It's kind of fun, but it's fun for a first game. But people were like stoked to hear about what he was doing because he was personal. He like came on this thing and was like, "I'm so excited! I'm about to release my game. Here I go. I'm officially clicking it." And he clicked it, and people were like, "Oh, cool! I'm going to go check it out." Or there were some people who were like, "Oh, this is awful! I can't believe you made this Flash game." And then other people started defending him, and so it kind of created this talking point in TikTok. And I looked at his account, he had made tons of other clips before that, and they never had any traction. For whatever reason, this one had traction. But he was consistently doing that. I think he's on other platforms too. But I think he's only on like Blue Sky maybe. I think I found him on there. Or YouTube. He's on YouTube as well. But I don't think he's like super consistent with YouTube. But yeah, I would pick 1 or 2 that you're going to be consistent with, and maybe have different voices for them or different plans. So if you're doing Blue Sky or Twitter, be more personal and talk about your interests as well. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go have pizza or go see this movie tonight. Oh, and then like the next day, be like, oh, I spent X many hours this morning working on blah, blah, blah. By the way, the movie was good. Whatever. But make it personal on one. And then like TikTok can be a bit more of you marketing and you taking on a persona of like, hey, this is me. I'm going to be doing this and talking. Cause like the way I'm talking now is not the way I talk to people in general. And I think we all know, like when you watch YouTube, usually that's not how people talk to other people. It's a bit more of an amplified version of themselves to keep engagement going. It's the same thing with TikTok. So I would consider that and be like, if you can do that, or if you're willing to try it, get in front of a video camera, get in front of your phone and play around with like your video persona, your marketing persona, not the marketing persona that people write to like get a demographic going, but like your marketing personality, I would say. Your video personality. Who are you when you're in front of a screen? It should be real and a version of you and something you're in, like you talk like, do you really like the thoughts you have are like real and you're not like, manufacturing or building something that isn't who you are, but it's still going to be just a little bit of a lifted version of you, like a more excited version of you. I would say let your mask slip a little bit when it comes to your reservations of like who you are and like entertainment. You don't have to go all out where you're uncomfortable, but I would push it a little bit to a little discomfort. I think it's worthwhile to try it. I've never been a fan of being on screen. But I got into it a few years ago doing a podcast with a friend, and now I'm more comfortable with it. It took me a week to sit down and get into this and start doing this video stuff, this YouTube channel, but it took me a lot longer than a week, I would say. But once I had the idea of like what my first video was going to be, it took me a week to do and work up to it. And I had to like make myself do it. Same with this video. I had to make myself sit down and do this. So anyways, 1 or 2 platforms. I would do one that's like a written out one that's a video or visual one. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. The written out one, I would do shorter form, Twitter, Blue Sky. I closed my Twitter account, just because, haters going to hate, and there's a lot of haters on Twitter. I didn't want to sit around and block everybody. Blue Sky is much better. Has much better moderation tools, I think, for users. And I think this has got a lot of tools for like you finding fellow game developers. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've been on Twitter at this point. But just pick one, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you already have. But yeah, that's the 8 rules plus a little other things sprinkled in there. To go over them real quick. Hopefully I've already put them on the screen if I'm editing this. 1, your game is cool. It's worth talking about. Your game is cool. Remember, your game is cool. You're building it for a reason because you think it's cool. You think it's a cool idea. That's worth telling people about. 2, repeat often. Tell people about what you're building. Tell them why you're building it. Tell them how you're building it. Tell them when to expect it or what to expect, how you're changing things, the bugs that you hit. Just repeat. You don't need to do every hour on the hour, but a couple times a day, maybe once a day, a couple times a week, at least when you're starting out, a bit more frequent than that. I would say, it's worth time and money. Your effort is worth time and money. What you're building is worth being paid for. And if you just want it to be free to play, for whatever reason, it's still worth people's time. It's still worth their time of downloading it. It's still worth their time of playing it. It has value. What you're building has value because it's cool. Haters are going to hate, just block and ignore. Don't be a hater yourself. You're way above that. You've got other things to do. Build community. This can be anything from hardcore fans who are like really stoked about playing this game, to casual people who just like what you're doing and are just going to give you a thumbs up and maybe comment on a post on Twitter or give you a repost, or just give you a view and a heart on TikTok. They're still part of the community and they're still worthwhile. So yeah, build that community. Earlier the better. Start building that community earlier. Start repeating earlier. Start telling your story earlier. Start the marketing as early as you can in the process. Again, I wouldn't do it before you've started building it, because sometimes you can start talking about something and I think this is some kind of study, but your brain will give you like serotonin or dopamine and be like, hey, you've done the thing. Here's some chemicals as a reward. And then you don't do the actual thing because you talked about it. So start doing the thing first. Build for like a month or two. That will also give you things to share and talk about. So start building for like a month or two, then start talking about it. Start talking about it well before you want people to wish list it, well before you want people to buy it, well before you release it and announce the official version. Okay. So start going soon. Share your story. This is like the big thing. I said no particular order for all of this, and that's true, but share your story kind of encompasses all of this. Every part of this is sharing your story, from who you are to what you do, to where you want to go, to what the game is, to the idea of the game, to how the troubles that you had building the game, to the successes you had building the game, to the things that you removed from the game stuff that you added to the game, the general plot of the game mechanics. Every part of it is a story about the game, and that needs to be shared. And about who you are, that needs to be shared as well. Because people like to see people make stuff and they like to see people succeed. It doesn't seem like it a lot of the time, but we really do. We really like seeing people, for the majority of us, like seeing people make stuff. Especially fellow makers who make stuff. Be like, yes, they're doing something. It may not be for me, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Or it may be for me. I'm going to tell people about it. This is awesome. So share your story. You never know who's going to pick up on it. And you never know what aspect of your story they're going to pick up on. Last but not least, number 8, 1 or 2 platforms. Please do not divide your time too much. You got better things to do. You only have so much bandwidth in your brain, so much time in the day. You want to be building, you want to be creating, you want to be building a community, and you want to be focused on that. If you got a team of people who want to divide and conquer, I guess you can give it a shot. I wouldn't. I would just be like hyper focused on 1 or 2 platforms and really just hone in on building. Like, even if they're a small team, like, if you were all talking and reposting and resharing and like commenting on each other's posts on Blue Sky, that's going to do a lot more for you if like one person's on Blue Sky, one guy's on Twitter, one person's on TikTok, or one guy's on YouTube, whatever, however you would divide it to maintain it. So I would focus really in on 1, at max 2. 1, I would do a micro blog thing like Twitter or Blue Sky. And the second one, I would consider doing a video or visual base, which is like Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, something like that, to kind of show yourself a little bit more. But even then, I think Blue Sky, maybe even Twitter, supports video a lot better now. But that's it. Those are like the basics of marketing and what I think people should know about marketing and talking about their games and getting started. And really, you want to just hone in on the fundamentals. When you're starting out and you're small, fundamentals are going to take you like so far. Fundamentals and a solid foundation is going to take you so far when you're working on stuff. So yeah, I would just do those. Oh, and be consistent. Number 9, be consistent. Just, figure out a schedule of how often you're going to post in a week and try to stick to it. And you don't have to be like super strict about it, but give yourself like, I'm going to post at least 3 times a week about my game. If you do more, awesome. If you do less awesome. Figure out what went wrong, get back on the horse. You've got this. I totally believe in you. I want to see more people promoting their games, talking about their games, making some money off of their games. You should be able to break even or go to the movies or do something, get a little taste of like that success when it comes to making something, and then like do even better on the next game, and then do better than that, and just keep progressing. It's hard work. It sucks. Marketing sucks. Talking about yourself sucks. I don't even like it that much. But I like the marketing part. I don't like talking about myself that much. But you've got this. You can do it. Those are the foundations I think everyone can get started with and work towards. And go out there and make something. Thanks for watching. Again, this has been Sweet Game. I almost forgot the name of this channel. Sweet Game. I've been your host, Phil. If you can do me a favor, if you can like and subscribe if you like this stuff and you found it useful, that would be helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask some questions. I'll do what I can to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I will do some research and look it up and try to answer those in another video. So thank you and have a good night.